Welcome to our spiritual intelligence class. I am ossai-ugbah. I believe in spiritual warfare. I am an adaptive leadership teacher. I am the author of Survival in a Hostile Environment, and I'm also a pastor. Has someone ever asked you, who are you? When you heard that question, what came to your mind? How did you feel? What was the sound that you heard with that question? Who are you? Most times, our response or reaction to that question is one of ego, a challenge of our ego, our personality. And that's because our understanding of who we are comes from that point of body, instead of understanding yourself as body, soul, and spirit. In Macbeth by William Shakespeare, Macbeth had the ambition of being the king of Scotland. And the three witches told him that no man born of a woman will ever be able to kill him. And Macbeth believed it and rode in triumphant procession based on that word spoken by the three witches. When finally he became the king of Scotland, in the battle that ensued between him and Macduff, he made that statement to Macduff: no man born of a woman can kill me. Macduff understood the import of that statement. And Macduff, in reply to Macbeth, said, I am not also born of a woman. And that's principally because Macduff understood the idea or the power of spiritual intelligence. We are all born with being spiritually intelligent. But our rational world has untaught this part of us. That is because we are more prone to believing the things that we see, the things that can be scientifically proved. But the world is more than what you see. The world is more than what can be scientifically proved. Spiritual intelligence comes from that point of understanding that your life is more than body. Your interaction with the world is more than what you see. So those who are spiritually intelligent maintain a connection between what they see and what they cannot see, what is higher than them and deeper than them. This connection between the unseen and the seen is what helps to create a balance in our lives. Two terms are important in our discussion. Remember, the term for discussion is spiritual intelligence. So spiritual and intelligence. To be spiritual is to think, act, and interact from the awareness of yourself as not just soul and body, but as spirit. This understanding of yourself as spirit begins from operating from what I call your spirit center. I will take some time later in our discussion to explain what I mean by a spirit center. I mentioned that earlier that our rational world has untaught our spiritual part and have made us to believe that it is only what you can see, only what you can prove by science that is real. And this understanding is what helps us to bring labels and names in the things that we do. So, when someone asks you about who you are and your origin, you are prone to saying, I am white, I am European, I am American, I am Caucasian, I am an African American, possibly I am Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, possibly I am Bini, Esan, Ukwane, Esako, onwa, and so on and so forth. The reason is because we operate from that point where we see ourselves only as a body. And because we see ourselves only as a body, we give names and labels that can be understood from the point of body that we operate from. Intelligence has to do with what you know and how you use what you know in an appropriate manner, at an appropriate time, in an appropriate context, and with an appropriate motive. If we put them together, then spiritual intelligence has to do with your understanding of who you are, not just as body and soul, but as spirit, and how you make use of that understanding or knowledge of yourself as spirit in interacting with the world around you and the world that you find yourself in. For you to be able to be successful in life, you must be able to operate in at least 5 intelligences that the Lord has blessed us with. And what do I mean by 5 intelligences? First, there is emotional intelligence, beautifully captured by Coleman. Emotional intelligence is your ability to understand your feelings and manage your relationships. Then we have cognitive intelligence, which is the ability to manage facts, information, comprehend them, and use them at the same time. This is where science now comes into play. Then there is financial intelligence, your ability to understand and manage money-making ideas, using them productively for your gain. Then there is the spiritual intelligence, which is the subject matter that we are discussing, which has to do with understanding your spiritual makeup and making use of that knowledge for purposeful, productive life. It must be noted that if you operate from my perspective, you should then know that when you were born, there were 3 capitals deposited in your life. 3 capitals. And these capitals actually subsume or involve the intelligences that we are talking about. You have material capital. Your material capital is your intelligent quotient. Your intelligent quotient has to do with what I think based on what I know. You are also empowered with social capital, which we call emotional quotient. And your emotional quotient has to do with what you feel based on how you interpret what you know or the events around you and your response or reaction towards them. Then there is the spiritual capital, your SQ or your spiritual quotient, which is based on answering the question, who am I? I am aware of who I am based on the component of my spiritual side. Spirituality is to know who you are. Spiritual intelligence is to realize who you are and how you live your life in that awareness. If you live your life based on that awareness, then your decision will not solely and always be based on science and on physical facts. Because life is more than science and physical facts. As I think about the situation the world is in currently, certain things come to my mind, and that gives me this confidence of operating in spiritual intelligence from your spirit center. Last year, I have had this mind of running a program in another country away from Nigeria. I've done the interviews, I'd been accepted and admitted into the class. And the program was to have held this March, between the 10th and the 13th of March, away from Nigeria. But something kept telling me, right down within me, don't book your flight ticket. Don't pay for your booking even. Well, to be on the safe side, I called my travel agent. He made the booking. But there was this heaviness in not being able to part with cash to pay for that trip. And I kept postponing it. Then I realized, based on the knowledge of my spirit self, that each time I find myself in this center, operating from this point of pushing something to another day, my spirit man is sending a direct message to me. What then did I do? Based on the signals I felt in my spirit self, I put off the trip. In fact, I told myself yesterday that I would have been caught up in that country now without money, possibly no Medicare, and possibly exposed to the plague that is ravaging the world at this moment. Spiritual intelligence is important in responding to the things around you. Because your spirituality is your highest self. And understanding your spirit self raises your attributes and qualities to live your best life. And in living that best life, I mentioned earlier that it becomes necessary to become really aware of who you are. Awareness is key in raising this level of spiritual intelligence. I mentioned earlier that you are made up of body, soul, and spirit. But 60% of the times, 60% of the times, we operate in the body region. This is exactly where we operate most of the time in our body, because the things that we see are in this realm. The things that we feel scientifically are correct are in this realm. If science has said it, then it is correct. If we can see it and touch it and feel it, then it is correct. Therefore, whatsoever is not physical, whatsoever cannot be seen, whatsoever cannot be touched, whatsoever cannot be felt, is not assumed to be true. Physical, I see it. Seen, I experience it. Touch, felt, all have to do with body alignment. However, we are also made up of the soul. The soul, the mind, it's with it we make expressions. It's with it we think. It's with the mind, permit me, emotions are displayed or demonstrated. Therefore, the mind serves as the server. The server that downloads the information and transmits right to the body. And the body reacts or responds to what comes from the soul. But we are also made up of spirit. Spirit, like the soul, cannot be seen. It cannot be seen, but yet it exists. The spirit is that unseen part of you. So, those who operate in the spirit realm or spiritual realm understand that what happens to your spirit body is what happens to your physical body. Therefore, someone summons up your spirit. Summons up your spirit. And whatever happens to your spirit is what happens to your body. Therefore, there is a battle of dominion for the spirit. Because whoever has control of the spirit will have control over the soul and have control of the body. The body must respond to the dictate of the spirit. It is what the spirit does that controls the body. So permit me to say that the spirit is the remote control of the body. The spirit is the remote control of the body because the spirit has authority over your body. Understanding this is crucial for your survival. Understanding this is crucial for your life. So, you are body, you are soul, you are spirit. Yeah, I'm sure you may be saying to me, but that's not new. I agree. I'm sure you may be saying to me, but I've heard that over and over again. The question is, how conscious have you been about this tripartite disposition of who you are? How conscious have you been that your spirit is important because it can overrule your body? Don't we pay more attention to our body by the things that we do, the things that we see, the relationships we create, the things that we eat, what we feed our bodies with? Don't we pay more attention to the body? If I may ask you, if you are asked to give a breakdown of your physical finances, how much of your physical finances actually go to the care of your body, soul or spirit? I am very sure that more go to the care of your body because that is what people can see. That's what people can admire and say, you look beautiful, you look handsome. Or they may say you look stressed. Or possibly they may say you look awful. Because our body, in our calculation and valuation, is more important. My aim in this spiritual intelligence interaction session is to help you, is to assist you to become more conscious that you are spirit, and that your spirit has control over your soul and dominates your body. Your spirit is the remote control for what happens to your body and even to your soul. When the charmer, the sorcerer, or the shaman summons up your spirit, the purpose is simple: gain dominion over your spirit and make you do their bidding. Beloved, know this, that those who operate in the spirit realm and who are spiritually intelligent pay more attention to the things that happen in the spirit. as an African, I am well aware of what happens in the spiritual space. Therefore, you find someone who wants to get a contract, who wants to get a job from an institution, who will pay a witch doctor to gain spiritual control over the one who will actually be in charge of giving out the contract. Therefore, to be successful as a businessman, to be successful as a parent, to be successful in marriage, to be successful in your career, in fact, to be successful in whatever you do, you must be spiritually intelligent and raise your spiritual quality to the highest height, because success has to do with a battle for spiritual dominion. This battle for spiritual dominion is what your eyes don't see. It's what takes place outside of this sphere. Have you watched Doctor Strange? Have you watched Aquaman? These two films gives you an understanding of the body, soul, and spirit distinction, and what happens in the spirit realm and in the spirit plane. Remember, I said earlier that every human being has an investment of 3 capitals in their lives. The material capital, which is the intelligent quotient, which has to do with what I think based on what I know. You also have the social capital, which is your emotional quotient, which is what I feel based on how I interpret events from the point of my soul. Every human being is also blessed with a spiritual capital, your spiritual quotient, which is the spiritual intelligence that is the subject matter of our discussion. It is who I am based on what I am aware of. My goal in this interaction is to assist you to become more conscious of your spirit self. My goal is to help you awaken your spirit self. Not just awaken your spirit self, but to realize that you are more than body, soul, and spirit, and operate in that realization from this moment. The Greek philosopher Socrates was quoted to have said, "Man, know thyself." Know thyself, which means become more conscious of who you are. And based on that awareness, live a better life, or live a qualitative life. Your self-awareness is your key to rediscovering your spirit self. Spiritual self-awareness is to recognize that I am spirit, because I was created with a body, a soul, and a spirit. The soul is the inanimate life, the seat of senses, desires, affections, and emotions. But your spirit, this spirit part of you, is your connector to the spirit realm, where you either allow or refuse the things that take place in your life. Your spirit part is your portal to what affects your soul and what becomes of your body. Your ability to be able to open or close your spirit portal dictates what happens in your physical life. Therefore, your life is more than what you see, what you touch, what you feel, or what can be proved by science. Since I am Christian and I operate my idea of spiritual intelligence from that perspective, in Genesis 2 verse 8, after God created the human being, he breathed into his nostrils, and man became a living soul, rather a living spirit. Nefesh, that's the Hebrew word. Man became a living spirit. In Proverbs 20 verse 27, the spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching the deep parts of the human being, which means when God wants to communicate with you, God doesn't speak to your body because God is spirit. God doesn't speak to your soul because God doesn't have a soul. God is spirit. God speaks to your spirit. We will spend more time tomorrow talking about that in the next lesson, talking about that, for you to know how to build up your connector with the spirit realm. In Job 32 verse 8, the spirit in man is the inspiration of the Almighty. There is a spirit in you. This spirit in you is what is in operation when you are asleep. That is why you can find yourself operating in a different realm by dream. You can travel to places, do certain things. It's your spirit man that has been liberated while asleep. Those who engage in astral travels, it's not their body, it's their spirit. When someone dies, it's because the spirit which animates that body with life has left. So the body, as mere carcass, as mere clothing, is left here on earth, while the spirit lives and goes back to God. This understanding that you are spirit is important in how you interact with the world that you find yourself in. In Zechariah 12 verse 1, the Lord formed the spirit in man. The Lord formed the spirit in man. So the spirit in you was created by God. Created by God for fellowship with him, for interaction with him, and to help you live beyond this realm. Because your life is much more than this realm in which you can see, touch, feel, or sense certain things. In 1 Corinthians 2, verse 11, for which man knows the things of a man, apart from the spirit of the man which is in him? But the things of God can only be known by and through the spirit of God that is in man. I hope you understand that. It is the spirit of a man that can know the things in a man. And what does that mean? The human being is basically very deceptive, because we know how to switch our emotions. I'm sure it's very difficult for me to interpret who you are physically based on the things I see, because you can easily deceive me from the body perspective. And why can you easily deceive me from the body perspective? Because I have been taught to believe the things I can see. I've been taught to believe the things I can touch. I've been taught to believe the things I can feel from my emotion. But you see, the spirit is like an x-ray that understands and x-rays the whole person. Therefore, beyond your smile, beyond your laughter, beyond your supposed demonstration of care and understanding for me, your spirit, if it's not in agreement with what comes from your body and soul, becomes revealed by the Spirit. Wow. Oh yes. So, spiritual intelligence will help you to conquer and overcome deceptions of people that we find all over us. And ladies and gentlemen, have you ever been deceived? Oh my, I have. I mean, have you ever been deceived by the physical dispositions of people? Yes, I have. Because I relied on cognitive intelligence, body. I relied on what I can see, what I can touch, and what I can feel. But the human being is more than body and soul. The human being is spirit. With your spirit man, you can accurately interpret motives. With your spirit man and spiritual intelligence, you can accurately read people's moves, people's emotions, people's motives, people's supposedly kind dispositions. Seriously? Yes. Seriously. And that helps you to have a more qualitative life, because it is the spirit in man that can understand the things of a man. When people ask certain questions sometimes, I hear people say, I know him. No. You only know about him. You can only know him if you operate at a higher spiritual realm with and in spiritual intelligence. Galatians 6:1 says, if any man be overtaken in a fault, those of you who are spiritual should restore him. What does that mean? Some of the errors people fall into are not their own physical creation. And understanding it from the spirit perspective is important to know what takes place in the human realm. If you are Christian, I'm sure you are conversant with the story of Ahab. Ahab wanted to go to war against the Philistines at Ramoth Gilead. And he called all his prophets together, 400 of them, led by Zechariah the son of Chenani. And the question was simple. Should I go to war in Ramoth Gilead? If I go, will I prosper? And the 400 of them said, go. You will not just win this battle, you will come back triumphant. But there was one prophet who was not there, Micaiah the son of Imlah. And Ahab asked them to call Micaiah. Micaiah came. And Ahab said, should I go to war in Ramoth Gilead? If I do, will I win? And Micaiah said, you go. You will definitely be victorious. And Ahab said, Micaiah, let's get serious now. Should I really go or not? And Micaiah said, and my eyes opened in the spirit realm, and I saw the Lord sitting on the throne, and I heard a cry in the heavens saying, who will inspire Ahab to go to Ramoth Gilead and die in war? And a spirit stepped forward and said, I will go. How will you do it? And he said, I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. Therefore Ahab said, Micaiah, that which your prophets are saying are lies, because they are inspired by a spirit. Why was Micaiah able to know that? Spiritual intelligence, because he operated at a higher spiritual realm based on the consciousness of who he was as spirit. You may apply all the business principles taught in the best MBA schools, business schools, and it may not just work. You may apply all the political principles, all the principles of administration, and something does not work because there is a spirit realm. And by the understanding of the double kingdom system, whatever happens in the spirit realm is what happens in the physical realm. Gaining dominion then by spiritual intelligence in the spirit realm gives you dominion right here in the physical realm. I'm sure you may be saying to me, but I have always known that. That is true. But how conscious have you been of it? And how consciously have you used that knowledge to guide your actions and activities and the things that you do? It takes spiritual intelligence to live a life that is not just worthy of success and exceptional life. It takes spiritual intelligence to be your best self. Come to think of it, because this understanding of the spiritual realm is real. The sorcerer chants incantations to communicate in the spiritual realm. The Christian speaks in prayer and even speaks in tongues. And those who are into magic or the other have various forms of mantras that they recite. All is a battle for the dominion of the spirit realm. How conscious are you of the fact that your decision to get married should be a spiritual decision, not a physical decision based on the physical qualities of the lady or of the man? How conscious are you that your decision to get enrolled in that school, that university or college, should be a spiritual decision and not a physical decision because you feel that that school has had the best results so far? It is not about the physical results of the school. It is about the spiritual atmosphere of that school. How conscious are you of the fact that where you live, the house you have decided to buy, the place you have decided to take as your residence on rent, should be a spiritual decision and not a physical decision, because it is a government reserved area. It is a posh area of town. Do you understand the spiritual atmosphere based on your spirit man? What are the messages that your spirit man has received to make you take that decision? You are more of spirit than body or soul. Remember I said earlier that an awareness that you are spirit is necessary for spiritual intelligence. Something else is very important in this whole journey, and that is that you must realize that you have and operate what I call a spirit center. And what is a spirit center? This is what I refer to as spirit center. You notice that in this triangle of body, the physical, soul, the emotional, spirit, the spiritual, there is an empty space in this triangle, and this empty space is your spirit center. How? It has an interaction with every part of this triangle. Every part. Every part. Which means that once you understand that you have a spirit center, you can have control over your body, over your soul, over your spirit. This spirit center is what is begging for your attention. This is where your life is supposed to be lived right at this point. This is where your affairs are supposed to be controlled. This is where your decisions are supposed to be taken. This is where your life should be lived, right in your spirit center. But it cannot be seen. It can only be activated. It can only be opened. Earlier on, I called it a portal. A portal is a gateway. A gateway that either allows entry or refuses entry. Your spirit center is what will refuse entry to anything that will affect your spirit, your soul, or your body. And it is activated based on the realization that I am spirit, you are spirit. I am more than Chika. Chika is the physical label that has been given to what? My body. Kind, sweet, compassionate, angry is the label that may be given to your soul based on what? What comes from it? Emotion. But the spirit is what no one sees. But the spirit has the capability, the power to influence what becomes of your soul. The emotions that you dispense from your soul and what becomes of your physical body. Wholeness, wellness begins from your spirit center. Spiritual wholeness will result in physical wholeness. Spiritual wholeness will result in your soul wholeness. Your spirit center is the key in spiritual intelligence. Therefore, realize that I said, you are body, soul, spirit. There are three investments placed by the divine in you. And these are the material investment or capital, which is your IQ. And that is based on what you know. And you have the social capital, which is your emotional quotient, which is what you feel. And you have your spiritual capital, which is your spiritual quotient, spiritual intelligence, based on the awareness or realization of who you are. If I may ask you, Vincent, Cynthia, who are you? You are spirit. I mean, you are spirit. This consciousness, this realization will help you to become more intelligent in your interaction with the world. Allow it to influence the decisions that you take from today. When you allow your spirit to take the upper hand in your life, you will definitely live the best life available here on earth. Your spirit is key to your dominion. I encourage you from this day, learn to liberate your spirit self. Allow it to have dominion and control the affairs of your life. When you do, you live the best form of life. I'm sure you may be asking, how do I do that? That will be the subject in our next lesson, when we'll be looking at how to unlock or improve your spirit man, how to develop your spiritual intelligence. To recap, Remember that spiritual intelligence is a realization of your spirit self and using that knowledge to live your life here on earth as body, soul, and spirit. Again, remember that you are not just body, you are soul, you are spirit. And finally, remember that your spirit controls your soul and your body. And you have a spirit center which becomes the portal, the gateway to whatever happens in your life. And what do I mean by whatever? Because this portal has a way of affecting every part of this triangle that we call you. Until I come your way again in our next segment in discussing spiritual intelligence. Remember, you are not just body, you are not just soul, you are spirit. So, live consciously as spirit and take intelligent decisions based on the suggestions that come from your spirit. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate you. See you next time. Bye-bye.